Hi and welcome to TOTECS, the non-stop e-commerce platform providing integrated websites that work for you. Today I'll be looking at the changes made within the 14.1, 14.2 and 14.3 releases into the TOTECS platform, offering 17 improvements and 17 bug fixes. The 14.3 release added the new ability to display a list of product image thumbnails within category listing and product search result listing areas that appear on Content Manager web pages. This allows users to be able to see more pictures of a product initially without having to navigate away from the product listings, which can make it easier and quicker for them to decide if they've found the right product. This may speed up the shopping time and allow them to see a wider range of products. Clicking on the thumbnail can be configured to either update the large placeholder image or open up the image viewer for users to scroll through. We've also added an experimental feature that allows users to see a magnifying glass and digitally zoom in on the details of the image shown in the placeholder, allowing users to see more details of the products they're wishing to purchase. The 14.3 release adds the ability for the related products area that displays on a Content Manager web page to show a list of products that belong to the same category that the current page's product shows. This can allow users to see other similar products that belong to the same category without having to navigate back to the category listing page, increasing the chances of adding these other products to basket sooner. This can also be used to greatly reduce the amount of data work that needs to be set up for related products, allowing administrators to use the same category tree to both manage related products and categories without needing to separately assign related products to one another. Within the 14.3 release, we modified the Administration Center's sales summary interface to allow administrator users to filter the sales statistics based on the many different order fields. This can be very helpful to show how many orders and totals have been raised over a given month or year based on many filters such as payment types, postcode, delivery address, state, among many other ordering fields. This can provide greater insight into the sales, helping to make future decisions on how to target customers and specific markets. The 14.3 release improved the locations connected data import to allow locations to be automatically geocoded when imported. This is very helpful if you're displaying locations in the location finder, such as for dealer, supplier, or store networks, and don't know the geographical coordinates of each location, but do know their addresses. Using Google's Geocoder API, these location coordinates can be found using the address data, then instantly updated against each imported location, having those locations instantly appear within the location finder. This improvement may remove the need for administrator users to log in and run the location geocoder themselves, saving precious time, money, and headaches. In the 14.1 release, we added a new permission that controls if sales rep users are allowed to raise orders using the payment type set against each customer account that they are ordering on behalf of, or otherwise only with the same set of payment types assigned to their direct customer account. This can either ensure that the sales reps are limited to only raising orders that the customers are allowed to pay with, or only choosing from payment types that are always available to them. In the 14.1 release, we improved the basket products listing area that displays on Content Manager web pages to have the ability to limit the amount of products that are displayed and allowed users to paginate through the products in their basket. This is particularly important if hundreds of products are being placed in their basket and allows the basket product listing and its web page to display faster. In the 14.2 release, a small improvement was added to the make model search form area displayed on Content Manager web pages and the trade interface to allow the year drop down to stay selected after a model has been selected. This small change makes it easier and quicker for users to search on models when they know the year, but they need to select between different model names. We've also modified the make model connected data import to allow it to run between 5 to 100 times faster, allowing thousands of models to be imported into the platform quicker. We additionally improved the customer accounts data import to also run much more efficiently as well, reducing the chances of it failing. Over the 14.2 and 14.3 releases, we added 4 improvements to the SmartFreight integration. This includes having the facility role permission that controls if users are allowed to choose from the freight carrier options when proceeding through the order checkout process. For certain customers, this can be turned off to make it quicker for them to submit an order. There's also more fine-grained control over whether orders should be sent to SmartFreight using rules set up within the Order Surcharges Administration Center. For orders sent to SmartFreight as partial orders that have not yet been allocated to a freight carrier, there are now settings to control if the freight carrier and freight unit measures should be passed across to SmartFreight. If allowed, this may reduce the amount of data work the warehousing staff need to perform in SmartFreight when confirming the order, reducing time and costs to the business. And if that's not enough, there's a whole bunch of small improvements not featured in this release video that can be found by going to the TOTECS.com website, clicking on the Help menu and clicking on the Forums menu item. Scrolling down to the Releases forum, you can find details of the 14.1, 2 and 3 releases all there by clicking on the respective releases. Also, feel free to subscribe to the TOTECS channel to be able to keep up to date with the latest features we're releasing. For now, let's get into the details of each of the changes we've made to the platform in these past releases. Within the 14.3 TOTECS release, we've added a new capability to the product search results listing and the category listing content managed web page areas to be able to display a list of thumbnail images for each product record that is displayed. So in our example here, we've got a product search results listing area that's showing us flagged products. And for each product record, we now have this list of thumbnail images that allows the user to be able to view the different images that are available for a product. And this helps because they no longer need to necessarily go to the product detail page to view all the details of the products to find the product that they're looking for. Because of that, they spend less time going back and forth between product detail and product listing pages, allowing them to add products to basket faster, which ultimately can lead to increased sales and a better user experience. There's a number of improvements that we've added. First thing we've added is a product image placeholder, and it's designed so that way when the user clicks on the thumbnails, it can then update itself with whichever product image has been selected, and then when the user clicks on that, then they can then view further details and as well as filter through the images that exist for that product. But there's another setting where we can have it so that when the user clicks on the thumbnail images, instead of updating the placeholder image, we may want them to be able to view the images in full. So in this mode, when the user clicks on the thumbnail image, they now see the full image viewer as opposed to having to update the placeholder and then click on that to view this viewer. So this is a different method in which users can view the full details of the product image. Now to set this up, if we go into the administration center and click on the websites menu and click on the websites menu item, within the websites interface, if we find the particular page that either a product search results listing area or a category listing area appears on. So home to is the example that I have here. If I click on then view all areas, within that page, find our product search results listing area and click on that. Within its settings dialog, there's a few settings that have been added to the area. So the first thing we have is the show image thumb list setting. If only that is set to yes, will only the thumbnail list of images be allowed to be rendered to the area. If that is set to no, then they are not allowed to display. And then if they are allowed to display, then we need to choose how big are those images going to be sized at. So we have 4 different options in the TOTECS platform. Either we want to show them as thumbnail images, small images, medium images, or large images. So if we change this setting to medium, for example, we could see that would fundamentally change the images so that they're far bigger in size. In this case, it kind of breaks the layout, so it's not a particularly great option, but that is a possibility if we didn't have so many images or so many products that we need to display. So that's what that setting controls. We'll just leave that as thumbnail. Now we can control, as I was saying before, when the user clicks on the thumbnail images, should it display either the image viewer or should it only update the image placeholder. So because this is set to image viewer, when the user clicks on the thumbnail image, we can see it is just showing the image viewer. If that was set to image placeholder, when the user clicks on the thumbnail image, it now only updates the image in the image placeholder. And the other setting that we have here is that for the image placeholder, we can also specify how big the image should be, whether it should be sized as a thumbnail, a small image, a medium image, or a large. So that's controlling the size of the image that appears in the placeholder image. And note that there may be some CSS styling that shrinks it down even though it is trying to load a higher quality image. So it's important to get these settings right because the larger the image is, the more time it will take for the image to download in both the placeholders and in the thumbnail lists. And because of that, that may slow down how long it takes for the full page to load. It's important to try to keep these images as small as possible, where there's enough detail for the users to be able to view it and not notice the quality difference too much. But if the images are too large and the users are using slower internet connections, then it may degrade performance of those pages loading. So it may be worth tweaking them to get the right values set. Now, once those settings have been configured in the area, we also have to configure the area's formats to determine where the image placeholder and where the image thumbnails will be placed within the format. We may not want the image thumbs to appear just below here. We may want them to appear at the bottom of the area or at the top of the area. So we have those options available. Back in the website's interface, we go down to the web area format libraries and expand the search area types. Within the product search results listing area, as well as the category listing area, there will be the product search record format, and that's the format that determines how this area is laid out. So I've created an example format here called the product listing grid home with images. And within that format, there are 2 hooks that have been added to the format, the product image placeholder and the product image thumbnail lists. So these hooks, when embedded in, the product image thumbnail list will embed the list of images into the format, and then the placeholder would naturally put in the placeholder image that shows the primary or the main image currently selected for that product. So within there, we can then wrap further divs and a CSS styling class around those hooks to be able to further refine the way that they look and their appearance. And we could have it so that instead of this is listed horizontally, we could have them listed vertically. It's all up to us using the CSS classes to determine how we want it to appear in this area. And as you can see here, these images are trying to more center align themselves. We may want to have them left to right aligned or right aligned. There's all those kind of capabilities that is available through using the format combined with CSS styling. These hooks are available for the product search results listing, as I'm showing here, but they're also available for the category listing areas as well. So we could, in our category listings here, we could also embed the thumbnails if we wanted to, or otherwise we would leave those settings off. So if we want to embed the images, we would have to go back to the website's interface, find our page that is displaying the category listing, such as here is the category page in our example website here, but it could be called something completely different. In the view or areas for that, we'd need to find a category listing area. And within the category listing area, we have the exact same settings that are in the product search results listing area, where we can set the product image placeholder size, whether or not we want to show the product image thumb list, the product image thumb list size, and well as the product image thumb list target. So all those same settings exist across both the product search results listing areas and the category listing areas, and they behave in the exact same form. Currently, this feature is only enabled for these two areas, even though the product search result listing areas are used in other area types. Currently, the image placeholders, those hooks will only render out in these particular two area types, and in the future, we may extend this further. The last thing I want to talk about is there has been also an experimental feature that we've also added to the category listing and product search results listings area, and this is this thing called Show Image Placeholder Magnifier. Now, if this sets a yes and a placeholder image is set within the area, then when the user hovers over the image placeholder, a digital magnifying glass will allow them to zoom in on the image that is displayed in the placeholder. So then that allows them to view more details about the images they're wanting to buy without necessarily needing to go into the image viewer itself. So this is an experimental feature that is new, and it may not work exactly the same. And this feature very much depends upon having images that exactly match the dimensions that are set up within the administration center interface. And it may be more of a hindrance than a help to users, depending on if they like that feature or they do not. But it is a digital zoom, so it's just going to zoom in on the image that displays in the placeholder there. So depending on the quality of your images, it also may or may not be of assistance to users as well. Now, this magnifying glass, you can change some aspects of it. You can change how big it is. So in this case, it's around 300 by 300 pixels in size. You may want to increase the size of that, or you may want to decrease the size of that. You can do that by overloading the CSS classes for the magnifying glass. And you may not also want it to have a round shape. You may want it to have a square shape as well. You can also do that by overloading the CSS classes that appear for the magnifying glass. It would also be a nice, helpful feature to make users to be able to view in more detail the products that they're looking to purchase. And if it's not working for your website, then you can always just turn it off if it's not needed. So with all these added improvements we've added to the TOTECS platform, looks to help improve the user experience by allowing them to find the products that they're looking for quicker and easier without having to do as many page reloads, giving them an overall better experience. Within the 14.3 TOTECS release, we've added an improvement to the related products listing area that appears on content managed web page areas to be able to display products that are related to another product that are assigned to the same category. So if we take an example on our home page here, we have this product called the ViewSonic monitor, and if we click on that, by default, this product does not have any related products, and we've got a related products area set up on this page, but because no related products has been set up for this monitor, nothing will appear. Now, if we go into the administration center and we look at this product, we can set up related products on a one-by-one basis to determine exactly what related products will appear for this ViewSonic monitor. But that can be a time-consuming task. Now, this product belongs to a category called computer accessories that also has other products assigned to it. So if you look at the computer accessories category, it has a number of different screens and a number of different accessories that go that can be set up for screens. So what we can do now is we can utilize all these other products that appear in the same category as our ViewSonic monitor and use that to load within our related products area. To do that, if we go into the Administration Center, click on the Websites and click on the Websites menu item, within there we find the web page that is going to use to display our product detail and related product listing areas. So within that, click on the View All Areas. And for our related product listing that we've got set up on this page, there is now a setting in the area editor called Display Products Based On, and there is an option available called Category Products. So if we click on that Assign button there, now when we reload this page, and we scroll down further on the page, the related products listing area now displays because there now are many products that are related to this ViewSonic monitor that we have here that are all coming from this same category from computer accessories. So this can be very useful then, rather than having to set up related products on a one-by-one basis separately to the category tree, we can now use the same category tree to also populate the related products listing area. So that this can heavily reduce the amount of data work that we need to do, because we can leverage all the work we've been doing in the category tree to display products within the related products area. Now, from the user's perspective, after they add this product to basket, they may be able to find the other products that they were looking at in that same category that they can also order, such as if I'm buying a screen, I may need to have one of these docking stations that is associated with the screen. So it avoids them having to navigate back to the previous page in order to add other products to basket. So this can increase the chances of them buying more products and checking out faster, all leading to increased sales for your business. Within the TOTECS 13.3 release, we've added a new capability into the Sales Summary Administration Center interface to provide more filters on how we can then filter down the statistics that display here to our administrators to be able to analyze and see how ordering is progressing for different segments within their customer base. From the Administration Center, we click on the Statistics menu and go into the Sales Summary interface. Within this interface, we have 3 graphs that show us the total monetary amounts of sales that are being made through the websites, as well as the number of orders and the number of unique accounts that are ordering through that. We've added an additional capability within the search filters drop down here to be able to filter down the order statistics further. So one of those things that we've added is the ability to filter down orders on a particular set of payment types. Within the platform, there are a number of payment types or payment methods in which orders can be paid for. The first one is on account or AC. The second one is CC for credit card. ZP is for zip pay. DD is for direct deposit. RQ is for a running quote when it's not actually being paid at all for an order. PP is for PayPal. So in this search box, we're going to now find all orders that are being paid with these payment types, but we may not want to find for across all of them. We may only want to find for the first 3. What are the order amounts that are being paid for on account with credit card and with zip pay? So if we click on the update button, the graphics will update, and in this case, it hasn't changed at all because that's covering most of the payment methods that are used for this project. Now let's just get the account payments, and we can see that it's dropped a little bit. So we can see that the majority of payments are made for orders have been made on account, but if we may want to see what are the orders for the other payment types, maybe direct deposit and credit card, and then we can filter that down and see the amount of totals that are being made with those different payment methods. So that's where we can put in a list of payment types, and in order to filter out the statistics that display for those orders paid with those payment types. Now we can do the opposite. We can find what are all the payments being made excluding certain payment methods. So naturally, running quote or quoted orders may be not orders that we care about, so we could exclude that from the list. Click the update button, and now you can see how many orders are being paid for. And we also may want to exclude direct deposits because the money doesn't go immediately into the bank account either. So now we can see who are all the orders that are being paid for, excluding running quotes and direct deposits. That's real money that we may have in the hopper in our own systems. So this is showing you how you can further filter these graphs down using the different payment types. And we have also added a number of other filters in which we can match on orders. If we look further in the drop down here, we can now match orders on a certain user's login ID, on an email address, a purchase order number, a carrier value, a freight carrier value, a location that orders are assigned to, a certain deal activation code that users have entered to redeem a deal that a deal has been applied to for orders. And as well as we've got all the different delivery fields. So we might want to find all orders that have occurred for a specific postcode. So let's take an example, 5000 is Adelaide. we now can see all the orders that have been delivered to Adelaide in the past 12 months. And we can also drill down further if we want to zoom into a specific month. So in this case, we're looking for June. Here's all the orders that were delivered to Adelaide through that month. Now, using this information, we can already see for all the orders that are going to Adelaide, there's certain points in time of the month where these orders don't typically get made, and I would take a guess this would be the weekends. So there's an opportunity for us to be able to use these statistics to be able to work out how can we get more people ordering in Adelaide over the weekends, as just one example. So we might want to start deals happening on the Friday or the Saturday and sending them out, and then seeing if we can get more sales going into Adelaide through those time frames that are showing here in the graph. So this is how administrators can use these capabilities that we've added into the sales statistics here in order to come up with ideas about how to increase sales, such as sending out marketing emails or providing deals that cover these periods of time. So that way we can try to increase the sales that are going through the website. If you clean out the filters and click the update button, then you'll go back into the overall totals that display in these graphs. These options display within all the different graphs that we have available through the three different types that show here. Now, these filters have generally two different types of filters, where we have exact matches, which is all these filters which have the word matching, or they have the filters that are word containing. So if we put in the value 500, then that will match all postcodes that have the value starting at the beginning of the postcode, in the middle of the postcode, or at the end of the postcode that have the value 500. So that could be non-South Australia based postcodes. It could also correlate to Victorian or New South Wales postcodes, because they may have postcodes that have a 500 at the end, such as 3500. So it's important to denote that when you're doing these filters for the orders, especially the delivery addresses here, where it's partial matching, whereas the exact matching is happening for all these filters that are above here. So if we want to find a certain user who is emailing over a certain period of time, where their login ID was Adelaide, we can see that there is no user called Adelaide, and that's why we're getting no statistics that are displaying up here. So this is another great tool in the arsenal for the administrators of a given website to understand and to do more in-depth analysis around the orders and the customers at the times that they're raising orders, and how you can then use that information in order to make future decisions on how to increase the sales of orders going through a website. Within the TOTECS 14.3 release, we've added an improvement to the way that the locations connected data import runs to be able to set up the latitude and longitude coordinates for each location that's imported into the platform. And these are required if we want to be able to display locations on a map, such as in a location finder or a dealer finder, any kind of geographical finder using the Google Maps that we want to place on a website, to make sure that these locations appear on the map when they're being imported into our TOTECS projects. So if we go into the administration center and click on the inventory menu, then click on locations, we may have already imported locations previously, or we might be trying to import new locations into the platform. And each location specifies both the latitude and longitude. And both of these coordinates are needed to be able to display a pin for that location on a location finder map. Now, in order to get those coordinates, there's a couple of ways to do that. You can either go to Google Maps, right click on a location and click on the what's here option to get those coordinates that Google will provide to you. But that can be a long and cumbersome way to do this, especially if you're dealing with lots of locations that you want to put in a location finder. So another way to do this is if we go into either the connector application, or if we're managing the addresses for locations in our own accounting or ERP systems, then as long as we've got the address data, then the TOTECS platform is now able to find the latitude and longitude locations, allowing those locations to appear on the map when they initially get imported. So let's take an example. If we click on datasets, I've got a dataset that has been set up here. And in that dataset, I've got locations for the different stores or warehouses we may have around across the country. And as you can see, I've put all the address details of those locations, as well as the postcodes, but I don't know the latitudes and longitudes of those locations. Now, when we go to import this, if we go back into the administration center and go onto the data menu and click on data imports, within the data imports interface, if we click on the connector imports, for the locations and stock quantities data import, if we click on the modify locations link, there's now some additional options that we've added to the data import. So the two options that we've added are the Geocode active searchable locations. So when a location gets imported into this project and it doesn't have latitudes or longitudes, if this is ticked, then after the import is completed, it will then try to find the latitude and longitudes, also known as geocoding, by using Google's API, which is the same as similar its approach if we were manually doing it through the its Maps interface. And the second option we have, when this geocoding occurs, we can optionally have a report be sent out to us to see how the report run and if it was able to geocode all of our locations. If we turn that on, we can also receive an email address to the admin email set up in the project so that it will receive a report. So with that now set, if we either run the locations import from here or either in the connector itself, it's configured, such as I'll do here. From the connector, we find the locations data export. We want to import that to the TOTECS platform and we'll make that a full import. Now, when we run this, once that is complete, if we go back into TOTECS, with the data import completed, you can now see for the Sydney warehouse, for example, data import is able to locate the latitude and longitude locations. So if we compare that with the connector, which originally had no latitudes and longitudes, you can see that the geocoding has been able to find the latitudes and longitudes for that location. If we refresh the page, the location, you can see it has now been able to find the additional locations and display them on the map. So by turning these settings on in the location finder, the Geocode active searchable location, that has now been able to find the latitudes and longitudes, enabling those data to instantly appear on the map once that data has been imported from the connector, either via datasets or via any connected ERP or accounting system. Now, there is an important thing to note. If locations need to be searchable, so if we go back into a location, you can see for the Sydney warehouse that it had the allowed searching set to yes. So the locations data import will only try to find latitudes and longitudes that are set as zeros or have not been set against the location, where this allow searching is set to yes. If that's set to no, then it won't try to find the latitudes and longitude locations. So it's generally recommended if you're importing locations from external sources that you also turn this option on to set locations searchable when first created, if you want to also geocode those new imported locations at the same time. Otherwise, the geolocating won't try to find the latitudes and longitudes for newly imported locations. Now, if you want to receive that email so you can see what's going on for the locations data import to see which locations were unsuccessfully be able to geocode, then that's a good idea to turn that on. And the email address where that go to is the same administrator email address be found if you click on the stores menu and go down to the organization setting. Within the organization setting, there is the admin email setting that geocoding locations will be sent to. Now, the report will tell you which locations were able to be successfully geolocated and which ones were not, and the locations that were failed. And there's a number of reasons why the geocoding may fail to find latitude and longitude locations, such as if you don't give enough information, such as for this Sydney warehouse, we didn't give the street name, then Google would not be able to find the street where that location needs to be assigned to. And it may be the case where there are multiple locations that street address corresponds to. So if there's no suburb or there's no postcode, then Google is going to have a hard time of finding the exact match of that address. And so if it can't find the exact match, then it will not set the latitude and longitudinal locations. Already, there's also the ability to set up geocode locations that we'll talk to in previous release videos, so you can always run this manually from the locations interface within the administration center as well. So let's take an example where we want this Darwin warehouse to become searchable on our location finder. We make sure it's allow searching is set to yes, and then we can also click on the geocode locations, and then it's saying it's found two locations that require latitude and longitudes. So if we run that, then it's saying we're finding the locations for Darwin, and in this case it's saying that it cannot not find the location for the Vic store, but it was able to find the location for the Darwin store, and there's the address that it found. So we click the save, that will then update the Darwin longitudes as well. So using the geolocating feature now within the locations data imports, it reduces the amount of time it takes for admins that enables these locations to appear on the map, and we can use all the address data to make them instantly appear in associated connector systems or accounting or ERP systems where this location data is stored. Within the TOTECS 14.1 release, we've added an improvement to give additional controls over the payment types that sales reps can use when when they switch between accounts and they raise orders against their customers that they're allowed to order from. So within the administration center, if we go to the search users interface, for a typical rep user here, such as TOTECS rep, they're assigned to a customer account. So this is the web retail customer account. And each customer account determines the payment types the reps would normally be able to choose from. So if they're making an order for the web retail account, rep would only be able to choose the on-account payment type when raising orders for the web retail account. Go to another account, if they're raising orders for this eSite account, they'll be able to choose from all the payment types here. Now this may be problematic because you may not want your reps to always be dictated that they can only choose the payment types for particular accounts. You may always want them to use the same payment types or payment methods for all accounts. So within the administration center, if we go into the users menu and go into the user permissions interface, in here we look at the facility roles. We've got a facility role set up for all of our sales rep users. If we scroll down to the My Details permissions, you can see that there is an additional permission here called Switch Customer Account Payment Types. By default, that is set to allow. That means when the sales rep user is switching between their customer accounts, currently I'm using the eSite account here, but before we may switch back to the rep account, and maybe we'll use that account. We can see that the rep is forced to only use the pay later account or COD customers. So it's changed the payment types they're allowed to choose from. So if we want them to always have the same payment types that the reps can choose from, or any users assigned to this facility role, then we should change this setting from allow to deny. So it won't change the payment types that rep can choose from. And it's not just sales reps, or it's any users who can switch between customer accounts. So if that's set to deny and we save that role, we log out and log back in as that rep user. Now if that rep uses the eSite account again, and remember that the eSite account had all the payment types allowed, whereas the web retail account only had the on-account payment type allowed. So when they use that eSite account and go to the order checkout process, we can see that the payment method that the rep can choose from is only set to pay on account. So that means that even though they're ordering on the eSite account, which allows all these payment types, the rep is restricted to only the payment types assigned to their direct account, which is the web retail account. So as we can see here. So using this facility role permission, we can control if the sales reps always only choose from the same payment types when ordering across any of the customer accounts that they're allowed to order, regardless of the payment types are set against each customer account. Then we would set this value to deny. If the reps can only choose from the payment types that match the customer account that they're ordering on behalf of, we would leave this setting set to allow. So this is helpful if you want to allow your reps to always choose the same payment methods or the payment types, or to use the same payment types that the customers are using. Which option applies depends on your business and what payment types you want to give your reps to choose from. Within TOTECS 14.1 release, we've added an improvement to the basket products listing area that appears on a content managed web page to be able to support pagination. Now, pagination are the pages that users can click from in order to get additional records or view additional records in batches based on the page size. Now, this is very helpful, especially when people are ordering lots of products in the tens to, if not hundreds of products, where this pagination becomes important because it allows the page that the basket's listing area to display on to load faster because there's less data that needs to load within the page. So by default, pagination is turned off for the basket's listing area. So in order to get this where the users can page between the different products, we need to turn that on within the area. And there's a few configurations that we have on how the paginators display. The default option that users can choose from to expand the amount of records that display in the page. So if we go into the administration center, click on the websites menu and click on the websites interface. Within there, we would have a page where the baskets listing area has been deployed on. So here's an example where I got a page called basket rep, specifically is configured for rep users in order to view the details of their baskets that they're ordering customers on from. But it could be any page that has a baskets product listing area. If we go into the area itself, there is now a setting here called basket product records per page. For all existing basket product listing areas, this would be set to no pagination. So only once we've configured the area up would we want this to change to 10, or the amount of records that display initially per page. So we've set that up as 10 per page. Now when that's configured, if we reload the page, you can see that this drop down here on the products per page will be set to 10 by default. But if we want it to be 25 or 50 or 100, then we just need to change the value within this setting here. Now, before we do that, we also want to set up the format for this area to be able to display those paginators. Otherwise, the user wouldn't be able to navigate between the different pages, and that would be very problematic because they wouldn't be able to see all the products that they're wishing to order. Back within the website's interface, if we scroll down to the web area format libraries and we find the shopping basket area types, there's one called basket products listing. So if we go into that, we can see that there is the basket header format, and this is the format that displays all the styling above all the products records that display within the basket. So we're controlling that aspect there. So if we go into one of those formats, the header formats, we can see that there are a number of hooks that have been added to the format to be able to control what elements we want to display for the paginators. So everything that is starting with basket products, then we got the next page anchor, previous, next page class, page list, page number, the drop down for the pages that the users can choose, as well as the previous buttons. So in our example here, we've configured it up so that we're going to use the page list, which is the numbers that the users can choose from. So that's been embedded there. We're displaying the number of items that are in the basket. So that's where that number is coming from here. And we've put some text there that we want to hard code in the format. So we could easily change that. As opposed to saying items, we could have that saying products instead. And upon saving that format and reloading the page, we can now see the text shows as the product label as opposed to the items label. So we got a lot of flexibility around on how we set up these paginators. And the paginators can also be set up within the footer. So that's at the end of the list here. We may want to put in some paginators to display so that way when the user scrolls to the end of their product list, then they can go to the next page. So back within the websites, that's where in the basket product footer format, there we will also see the same hooks that are available for us to set up the pagination there. So if we do that, I'm going to modify this format here. That is going to have our basket surcharge calculator as well as a paginator. So I copied the paginator into that format as well. And then I have assigned that to our basket products listing area here within the formats. That is assigned to the footer there. So now when I reload the page and we scroll to the bottom, we've got the paginators displaying in the footer of the baskets products listing area, allowing the user to then see more details about the products that they're ordering. And it also will automatically scroll to the top because we've configured that in the area within this website as well. So to recap, we've got the basket product listing area. It's got a new setting. We only want to set that from no pagination to one of these values. Once we've then assigned that area to a format, then has the paginators within the format that allow the user to navigate between pages of products that they've put into their basket. And this reduces the amount of time for the baskets page to initially load when there's only a small amount of records that need to display versus when there are more records that need to display in the area, which is especially important when you're getting into the hundreds of products that are being ordered, which is typically happening for sales reps or larger corporate customers who are ordering lots of products on a large scale. Within the 14.2 TOTECS release, we've added a small improvement to the make model search form area that appears on content manager web pages to make it easier for users to keep their selections in both the year and model dropdowns as they're progressing on finding the models that have the associated products assigned to them. So if we click on the make drop down and we choose, in this case we're looking at printers, so we choose the brother as the make, and then we choose the year 2017 if they were making printer cartridges for specific years. Then when the user chooses the model itself, the year drop down will now stay selected, and previously it would become unselected. Now this is also helpful since they can go back here and they can change the year for the specific model they're looking for, or they can just perform a search and it will then refine the filter to find the exact model that matches that year and model. So this little feature makes it easier for users to navigate and switch between the years and the models as they refining their searches or looking across different models for the same year. Now also within the administration center under the data menu within the data imports, for the connectors models data imports, we have also changed that import to be far more efficient at how it imports a list of model records, where we can get speed improvements between 5 to 100 times faster for that import to run. The reason behind that is we've optimized the way it performs, so that way in large sets of data, when you're talking about tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of records, we've performed some optimization so it's not needlessly updating the model records when it didn't need to in the past. That is a great improvement, especially when you're dealing with automotive industries or industries where they have a lot of models that the same parts can be applied to. We also made similar improvements to the customer accounts connector data import as well, so that way it also runs quicker, between 5 and 50 to 100 times faster as well, especially when only 1 or 2 new accounts are being created and the rest are being updated. That's when you'll get the biggest performance improvements, and then that will also reduce some other bottlenecks that may occur in the platform, and especially when you're dealing with thousands of customer accounts that you're managing. This is when you would notice the speed improvements of that import as well. Within the TOTECS 14.2 and 14.3 releases, we've added a number of improvements to the SmartFreight's integration feature that allows the TOTECS platform to send orders across to SmartFreight, where those orders can then be allocated to freight carriers, and then the goods picked and packed and entered into those freight carriers, automating a number of steps in the process. There's a few new settings that we've added into the platform's SmartFreight integration feature to provide more flexibility and additional data that can be passed across to the SmartFreight system. If we look back in the checkout process, when a user adds a product to basket and clicks on the checkout button, there are a few settings that control when the user is going through the checkout process whether or not they should be able to choose from a freight carrier and do a real-time lookup to get accurate pricing for products that they are ordering in their basket. Now, within the TOTECS platform, in previous releases, we talked about these freight units that determine how the products that are being ordered, how they are being packaged up, and we use either volume or weight or either of them to determine which unit or which kind of package the products are going to be packaged up in. We use all these numbers to work out the correct package to enable us to then accurately provide those details, then get pricing from the freight carriers using SmartFreight software. So a few of the improvements we've added is that there is now the ability to segment which users need to choose from a freight carrier and which ones you don't want your users to choose from. And that setting previously was controlled by this setting called Freight Provider Calculate Order Freight Surcharge. If that was set to yes, then the users would be forced to choose a freight carrier when they go through the checkout process. Now what we've done, if you go into the users menu and go into the user permissions, then go to modify roles or assign roles to a user, and within the facility role, which is the facility role that gets assigned to users, we've then now added an additional permission called view order freight carrier selection. So only users assigned to this facility role, and if this is set to allowed, then they will be forced to choose from a freight carrier. If this freight provider calculate order surcharge, freight surcharge has been turned on. If this permission is set to off, then the user doesn't have to choose the freight carrier when they're going through the order checkout process. So you may want to set up different facility roles to control whether or not users need to choose a freight carrier or if they don't need to use a freight carrier. So for example, if we've got sales reps ordering, we may not want them to have to choose a freight carrier, and instead we might leave that until it gets into the warehouse or until the order's being processed before that gets decided. But if you've got retail customers, then you may want to force the retail customers to choose the freight carrier, because then they can choose the carrier, so that way they can see the exact pricing that they're going to be paying for those orders in advance. So that's where this facility role permission that we've added comes into effect. So if this view order freight carrier selection is set, if we go through the process, click on the checkout button. Within the checkout process, once we confirm all of our details and click on the next button, then the user would normally have the choice to choose from the freight options. Now, if we go back into the permission roles and we change that permission from allow set to deny for this user, and we re-log in as that user, once they've re-logged in and they've got that new permission applied, now when we go to the checkout process and click the next button, now the user is taken directly to the order review page and they no longer have to choose the freight carrier that they wish to use. So they can just simply accept the terms and click the submit button. So these are two different workflows that can be set up within the one project on the TOTECS platform, depending on if you want users to be able to choose the freight carriers or need them to choose the freight carriers, or if you want to leave that out of the order and that can then be submitted at a later stage. We've also added another improvement that allows us to control when orders are submitted to SmartFreight based on using the order surcharges rules that are set up within the store's order surcharges interface. In this interface, this allows us to set when surcharges should get applied, such as if the delivery address on the order has a postcode in this range, the order total in this case is less than $50, then we're going to set a surcharge of $9. So we can be having very tailored, very customized rules to determine when freight charges and different surcharges are set. But we can also now control when certain conditions are met when orders are allowed to be submitted to SmartFreight and when they are not. Within our folder here, we might also put a rule that says if the postcode is within this range, then if we click on the add button and click on the action button, there is now a new surcharge rule type called send order to freight provider. So by default, if the integrated freight feature is turned on, then the orders will be attempted to be submitted to SmartFreight when a order has been submitted. But back within this interface, we can now further refine this, and then we can put in if we put in the value end and the conditions that this rule is nested within. So in this case, when the postcode is within this range, then the order will not be sent to SmartFreight. This is handling a specific case when certain orders from certain regions of the world or certain users or certain customer accounts are raising orders. You may not want the orders to go directly to the SmartFreight to start getting worked on. You may want them to go through an additional process within the back-end systems of your business before the orders go down to the warehouse or before they get processed and confirmed and picked and packed and are ready for shipment. So this provides another level of flexibility and another level of control where we can determine when those orders get sent out to the different systems. Another improvement we made to the TOTECS platform is so that when orders are being submitted across to SmartFreight, if they are being submitted as partial orders, and that means that orders that have not had the freight carrier determined yet, then we can pass additional information to those orders to SmartFreight software, which reduces the amount of keying work that needs to be done by the warehousing staff who are determining which carrier that needs to be selected. So if this option, send freight carriers to third-party freight providers, is set to partial imports, when the orders get submitted, they need to go through further work. We can still determine what information is included within the order sent to SmartFreight using these additional settings that are listed here. So for partial orders, do we want to include any freight carrier that may have been selected through the ordering process first? If there is a selected freight carrier, then allow that to pass through. Otherwise, don't allow that information to pass through if it's a partial order. Same goes for the freight unit amount. So in the section below, we have these different freight carriers that determine how the ordered products are going to be packaged up. We can now pass this detail, the unit has been decided, across with these partial orders using this control here. So if this is set to yes, and the platform has been able to determine the freight unit that can be set in the order, then that will also get passed across to SmartFreight, avoiding the need for the warehousing staff to choose which freight unit. They may want to adjust that in the future. Same goes for the freight weight and the freight volumes, since we use the freight units and the amounts that have been set here against each freight unit to determine their volume and their weights. If we have that data that's available, we can always also choose to pass that across to SmartFreight or to choose not to pass that across using these settings here. So these 4 settings control the different fields within SmartFreight where we can set those values when the orders are getting automatically imported in SmartFreight once the orders have been confirmed within websites using this SmartFreight partial import feature. Now, all these settings are not relevant if this setting here is set to SmartFreight full import, because a full import requires all these fields to be set to enable the freight carriers to immediately to be able to create the consignment note, because they need to know exactly how big is the freight that needs to be delivered, how much it's going to weigh, and the carrier that is going to be doing that work. So that's very much tied into users having to choose the freight carrier in the order checkout process first. So across all these improvements, we've had additional settings and capabilities and flexibility based on how businesses best want to distribute out the products that are being ordered and how much automation they want to get out of the freight carriers and within their warehouse and business systems. Ultimately, this all helps to lead to less manual keying, less errors, and more efficient processing, allowing businesses to save and make more money. And so that's a wrap up of the 14.1, 14.2 and 14.3 TOTECS release. If you've got any more questions or comments, you can always go to the TOTECS.com website, click on the help menu and go to forums. From here, you can log in and ask any questions you have about all the features and enhancements we've made today, as well as view all the release notes across these 3 different platform releases. That's it for me. Until next time, have a great day.